Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Wednesday night video. I hope that your week is going well and that your summer is getting off to a good start. I hope that you are staying safe and having a good time, especially as we're able to start going out into the world more. But with that being said, as you can see, we're still going to be doing online for a little bit longer. We just want to be wise about social gatherings and making sure that everyone stays safe and that we minimize the spread of COVID through our community. So as things start reopening and as life starts going into the new normal, that we just want to make sure that we keep everyone and everyone's family safe. So that's why we're going to be doing online for just a little bit longer. So with all that being said, I've decided to start a new series for this summer, and it's one that I'm really excited about. And it is called the Summer Words of Wisdom. And we're going to be going through a series in the Book of Proverbs to do all this. So the reason I decided to do this Words of Wisdom series is because I feel like over the last 3 or 4 months, we've seen a lot of people doing a lot of things, and a lot of those things may not seem like the wisest, whether that's how we feel the COVID situation was handled, or how we feel that certain people responded to the lockdown, or things like that. Or it may be what politicians are doing, or it could be what's going on right now as far as racism and the riots going on and everything like that. There is a lot going on in the world, and depending on where you stand on various issues, some things and some people's responses and things like that may seem really wise, or they may seem not so wise. And so with all that and thinking about wisdom and the way people act and respond to things, I thought it would be really good to do an entire series on wisdom. So for the next few Wednesdays and Sundays, at least until we get back in person again, but we very well may continue this throughout all of June and maybe even July, depending on how this goes. We're going to spend each video talking about a different proverb and how it applies to our lives. And the Book of Proverbs is a book of sort of little nuggets of wisdom that were written initially mostly by Solomon to sort of help out with teaching us how to follow God and live our lives in a godly and God-honoring way. And so it's a really good book for teaching us what we should and shouldn't do, and how we should or shouldn't handle things, which is why I think it's the perfect place to look for our summer words of wisdom. And so before we take time to analyze specific proverbs, in this video, I'm just sort of going to be running through with you why I think this is really important, what wisdom is going to provide us, and sort of what we get out of it, so to speak. So, with all that being said, the first question that I want to address that you might be having is, why is wisdom important? Why is it important that we have godly wisdom and that we have a godly understanding of what we should and shouldn't do? And so, to answer this, we're going to look at Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. So the introduction to the Book of Proverbs. And in this, Solomon does a really great job of talking about what it is that he's writing about and why it's so important. So with that being said, go ahead and grab your Bibles and let's start looking at Proverbs to see why it's so important that we have this wisdom. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for gaining wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent behavior, and doing what is right and just and fair. For giving prudence to those who are simple, knowledge and discretion to the young, let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance. For understanding proverbs and parables, the sayings and riddles of the wise. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So here we see sort of what we already talked about as far as why it's important to look at the Book of Proverbs and what we can, start to gain from it. And that is that it gives us insight and understanding and guidance on how we should behave and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And ultimately, it helps draw us closer to God, and it helps us to become more Christ-like and become better in our everyday lives. And so that's why it's really important for us to take some time to study Proverbs and the words of wisdom within it. And so with that, now you may be asking, well, what exactly is that wisdom going to provide us? What am I going to get from this? And so with that, we're going to turn to the next chapter of Proverbs, and we're going to be looking at Proverbs chapter 2, verses 1 through 8, to look at, well, what exactly is this wisdom going to provide us? So let's take a look. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding, indeed, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He holds success in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless. For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of his faithful ones. So here in these verses, we see what will be provided to us by this wisdom and taking this wisdom into account in our lives. And as we start doing these things daily, we see that God has success in store for those who obey his commands, and that he's a shield for those who try to do what's right, and he guards the ones who strive to be fair and just, and he protects those who are faithful to him. So by taking in this wisdom and by analyzing these words and figuring out what it is that we should and shouldn't be doing in our daily lives, then through that we are able to start getting access to that success and that protection and that, all that comes with that. And now, disclaimer, I am in no way saying that there is a reward system when it comes to faith. The Christian faith is not about, a point system, or if you do this many good things, then, you'll get this in return. We are all equally saved, and, we all fall short in the eyes of God, and we all need God's endless grace. So keep that in mind when I say this. But by working to become more Christ-like, and by drawing closer to God, and by doing, what he calls us to, we start to live the life that he had planned for us and for humanity. And by doing that, we're going to experience a lot more joy and a lot more blessings just naturally. When you do the right thing, a lot of times there's good repercussions of that. Every action has a reaction. And so that's more of what we're talking about here. We're not saying that there's like a point system when it comes to the Christian faith, because there's not. Like, again, faith is not about our actions. It's about our love for Christ and his grace. But the more that we live our lives like him, and the more that we draw closer to God and allow God to be part of our lives, then, the more we start to live that lifestyle that he wants for us, and the better that lifestyle is. So that's what that wisdom is going to provide us. And so then, ultimately now, you may be asking, so what happens when we do embrace this wisdom? What does happen? What goes on? And so to answer that, we're going to be looking at Proverbs chapter 2, verses 20 through 22. And if you'll turn there, you'll see that it says, "Thus you will walk in the ways of the good and keep to the paths of the righteous. For the upright will live in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the land, and the unfaithful will be torn from it." So this is exactly what we were just talking about with saying that, though we are not saved through actions, but through faith, and that there's not any sort of point system or reward system in Christianity, what this is showing us and affirming to us is that through having that wisdom and through living that out in our daily lives, that we will be able to have that really great relationship with God, and we will able to, be more part of him and his kingdom, which will in turn be such a bigger blessing to us just through drawing near to him. And we see that those who don't follow God's commands and who don't know him and don't draw close to him, they end up being cut off from him. And that's really sad, and that's why we want to evangelize and share the gospel with people. But that's also why it's good to reflect God in our day-to-day lives, and why it's good to, make him part of everything and do what he says is right and don't do what he says is wrong. So, with all that being said, I'm really excited for us to start this new series in the Book of Proverbs. I think going through all of these little nuggets of wisdom is going to really help all of us take this time this summer to try and, become better and see what is right and what is wrong, and help us to live more godly lives and have God be a bigger part of our lives. And that in turn will have such a huge impact on our community and the people around us and the world around us. And that's what the world needs right now, is it needs God, and it needs people who are reflecting God and Christ in their day-to-day lives. That's what we need above all else in the world right now. So I'm hoping that by doing this series of our summer words of wisdom, that we will be able to help with that. So I'm excited, and in the next video we will dive into our first proverb. But today I just wanted to get y'all familiar with the Book of Proverbs and why it's important, and why I think that this series is going to be really awesome and important. So with that, I hope y'all continue to have fun and stay safe, and continue to be praying for those who were involved in the boating accident as they continue to heal, and pray that we can all come together in person soon. So with all that, I love y'all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.